You know, it's a staple on the John and Ken show. Whenever there's a weird story about Lancaster, we all turn and look at Clay Rowe. You just read the bird story. The mayor wants bird sounds, so people are happier.
Broadcast on the street, yes.
Because it makes people happier?
Yes.
What about just having more real birds that chirp? Why do you need to have recordings?
They can't get him to move to Lancaster.
Oh, double dig.
Hey, you know what my wife saw this morning?
What?
Deborah and I were biking on the bike path by the beach in Venice.
Yes.
So as we're biking, she sees a guy lying on his side, wearing plaid shorts and no shirt, pleasuring himself.
Oh, no!
Right into the beach sand.
Oh.
Where was this?
Venice, along the bike path.
Way down there?
Yeah, and then he pooped in the street. And
Most likely.
It's a nice,
John and Ken
but
show.
the weather was beautiful.
KFI AM640. It's a nice day to have yourself on the sidewalk.
Well, she was all upset about it, and I'm thinking, well, I don't know. You wake up in the morning and go lay out on the beach.
It's like I tell people when you fart. It's nature.
You know, guy had
It's
an
just
urge.
something that's a natural thing.
He was keeping to himself.
Everyone does it.
You shouldn't have
pretty much.
looked. What'd you look for?
I told you not to look.
Speaking of pleasuring himself, if you have Charlie Sheen in the ghoul pool, well, he's still alive.
But
that's not a bad bet. I mean, what? He's 45 years old, and story after story. You know what's weird about this? There was so much made, I guess, of Lindsay Lohan and Paris Hilton and Britney Spears and all their problems. With Charlie Sheen, it's more like entertainment, isn't it?
it is.
With the girls, you know, it was all like, how dare they? That's just a bad example, and the young
That's
women
right.
look towards them. And,
Girls are held to a higher standard of behavior.
but Charlie
When
Sheen, if you
guys
haven't
do
heard,
this, men think it's funny.
by now he had to be taken to the hospital with severe abdominal pains. I don't know. Would you have severe abdominal pains if you partied with 5 women all night? Because that's what he did. 2 of them now have come out as porn stars.
Oh, what a shock, really?
Yes, including one that he had been looking to meet for a long time, she says. One of his name is Casey Jordan. That's a good name. K-A-C-E-Y. Hi, Casey Jordan. And apparently she's already put out some racy pictures. Yep.
To take advantage of this publicity moment here.
Says she went to Charlie Sheen's mansion yesterday afternoon, went right to Twitter and published a risque photo wearing a barely thin or barely there bikini, it says here. And she also wrote in her tweet, "It's officially 24 hours of drinking, he." And now we know today, after quite a night, Charlie Sheen had to be taken to the hospital.
Was that twit before or after the party? I mean,
before. When she got there yesterday afternoon, she tweeted a photo of herself in a bikini and then said it's officially 24 hours of drinking.
There you go.
He.
I thought maybe she was taking advantage. I'm the woman who put Charlie Sheen in the hospital.
Well, I think that's going to come next. The second porn star's name is Melanie Rios. She's telling friends that she was there when the 911 call was placed this morning at 6:35 a.m. She is close to securing a manager to represent her.
Of course she is.
Well, this is a huge career opportunity for everybody.
You want to know more? She's with LA Direct Models. And her stats are 19, 5'3", 97 pounds. Her chest is 32B, waist 22.5, hips 31.5, dress size 0 to 2.
Oh, she's a little bitty thing.
Yep, her shirt is small. Her shoe size is 5.5.
And put him in the hospital.
She's also available for solo, girl on girl, boy on girl. Plus, she speaks Spanish.
She's bilingual.
Here's how she describes herself as XXX new doll, model, Barbie and your little fantasy, sweetie by day, naughty by noon, and dirty by sunset. With a smiley face.
That's great.
With a smiley
and
face.
how much does she charge? Is there a menu of prices?
She also showed up on a social networking site saying, "Wow, I can't believe it. It took me a whole day to recover from a hangover. Weird. I usually don't get them."
Well,
I love this party.
It's a heck of a party.
In case you don't know,
the porn stars are wiped out the next day.
You know, in a way, in a bizarre way, I kind of admire Charlie Sheen because he just does what he does and doesn't give a damn with all the negative publicity. Whether he loses his job, he's paid $2 million an episode for 2.5 Men. $2 million for one half-hour show.
So he gets about $45-50 million a year.
That's right. John Cryer only gets $500,000 an episode. So obviously,
and this
they
show's
believe
been
Charlie
on.
Sheen. It's been about 7 or 8 years now, I think.
So he's probably made hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, more than he needs.
Yeah, right. So this is what a guy does all day when he's not married.
Yeah.
He lays around with a bunch of porn stars.
Apparently,
drink until 6:30 in the morning.
Charlie Sheen told one of the porn women, Casey Jordan, he was a huge fan of her work, has been searching for her for a year, a source told one of the websites.
Can't be that hard for him.
Probably not.
It's hard to believe.
Now this tough news. Apparently, CBS's shares went down immediately on news. They went down 2%.
Oh no, he's gonna die!
That's a big profit center there.
He is expected back on the set next Tuesday, though. They're on a short hiatus. I love this quote. Nina Tassler, president of CBS Entertainment. And, of course, you know about Charlie Sheen trashing the New York hotel room on the Coke binge in October.
Yeah.
Remember that story?
Yeah.
So he's been on a tear for the last year or so. Well, this even goes back to when he was going to kill his wife, right? Remember that story?
Yeah.
That was like a Christmas story a couple of years ago.
Charlie Sheen's Christmas story.
The president of CBS Entertainment said earlier this month the network, quote, has a high level of concern about Charlie. On a very basic human level, I'm concerned, of course. The man is a father. He has children. He has a family.
I don't think it bothers him.
I think all Nina cares about is whether or not he can stand up and finish the damn show. Think she really cares about Charlie Sheen's family?
Well, we got breaking news from TMZ
TMZ
here.
update.
Charlie Sheen had a briefcase full of cocaine delivered to his home and was using large amounts of the drug during a 36-hour bender that landed him in the hospital.
Does that give you a stomach ache, cocaine?
Too much of anything could give you a really bad reaction.
Wow. He had several people inside his home during the 36-hour party, including 2 porn stars, a business associate, and several other women.
Business associate?
Yeah.
What, the drug courier?
After hours of drinking, we're told a person showed up to the house with a designer briefcase that contained multiple bricks of cocaine.
Bricks? They come in bricks?
Well, they're packaged like bricks.
I haven't seen that. No. Like gold bricks? I mean,
sometimes in the movies they are, yeah. For TV shows.
Then he has severe abdominal pain. So what did he rupture down there?
Apparently John Cryer was just on the Conan show, and he said he thinks some of this stuff is over the top about Charlie Sheen. He has some disbelief about the reports of Charlie Sheen's, I like the way they put it here, lurid drug-fueled trysts. No, I don't think so.
I think
it's everything you thought and more.
This is only a sliver of what goes on. We only hear the headlines with the porn stars bragging afterwards about their hangover.
That's who he plays on the show, too.
I know, and I think John Cryer is as naive as his character.
Actually, on the show, he's tamer because he doesn't do a lot of coke on the show. Not the
He's
character.
having orgies. Imagine if there was video of this stuff. They're all running around nude having sex with each other.
It's a wild time.
Snorting bricks of cocaine.
You make $2 million for a 22-minute show. Where what? You probably have to only work half of that because there's other people on the show.
You just got to memorize a few minutes of lines and
come into your scenes.
That's right. Figure out how to walk from the door to the sofa.
You got another $2 million for cocaine and porn girls.
Jeez.
All right, now when we come back, we'll change gears completely because John and I agree this has to be the most incredible reporting of a poll that we have ever seen. It is a statewide poll put out by Public Policy about Jerry Brown, the budget, the possible June vote on extending the taxes, but the way some of the media is interpreting it is a hoot. That also makes us angry.
It is so wrong, it is funny. We'll tell you about it when we come back. John and Ken, KFI AM640, more stimulating talk radio.
Coming up on the Bill Handel Show, where were you when 7 astronauts touched the face of God? Bill's going to talk about the Challenger explosion 25 years ago tomorrow at 7:20.
Bill Handel, tomorrow morning at 5.
KFI AM640, more stimulating talk radio.
Truth is making a comeback.
KFI AM640.
John and Ken Show. John Cobelt and Ken Shampoo.
All right, we're going to talk now, if we can, with a straight face. What you're going to hear is a combination of anger and laughter because we cannot believe the fallout from this Public Policy Institute poll that came out. It's a statewide poll of Californians, particularly focusing, too, on likely voters, about how they feel about, by the way, it's like a 40-page poll, and it's got a lot of things in there. But the most important top of the headline that we want to talk about is they wanted to get an idea about how Californians feel about Jerry Brown's budget plan. Most importantly, how they feel about Jerry Brown's plan to keep those ugly taxes going that were passed in February of 2009, the largest tax increase in the history of the U.S. Up went your car tax, up went your sales tax, and up went your income tax. You listen to the show any amount of time at all, you know that's exactly why we have Tax Revolt 2011. It started in 2009. That's really the heart of this poll. That's the most important thing to find out. Are people willing to vote, if they get a chance in June, to keep these taxes going for another 5 years? But when you look at top media coverage of this poll, I choke on a bagel is too mild. My favorite, L.A. Daily News. All right, well, you probably don't read the L.A. Daily News. They made it a front page story.
There's no reason to.
Now, the story was written by an Associated Press writer who, if you read the content of the story, does get it right. But as John has told me, there are headline writers at these newspapers. Somebody takes the story, because AP doesn't work for the Daily News. It's a worldwide, media outlet. And the Daily News picks up their articles because, like most papers, they're not making any money anymore, so they got to use a lot of wire services. So whoever wrote the headline for this article on this poll wrote, "Voters back Brown's tax plan." And here's the subheadline, which is really a killer. Survey. More than 60% support governor's proposal to balance state budget by extending existing fees. I did a double take. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. First of all, I had already seen stories on this, and people are not in favor of the taxes, because we'll explain that in a moment. And second of all, you changed it to fees?
Fees?
Who the hell calls income taxes fees?
Yeah.
Hello, I have to pay my income fees.
Yeah.
I have to pay my car fees.
I like all the fees they deduct out of my paycheck every week.
The sales tax is a fee? That person, really. I'm sure it's just an intern, somebody that's working for free in the newsroom.
Or just an idiot. Because when you're writing headlines for the Daily News, things are not happening in your career.
Well, even when you start with the press release from the Public Policy Institute who did the poll, here's the headline. Strong support for special election, shift to local governments. Brown's ideas fare better than his approval rating in early weeks of term. Now, that's not a lie, because when you look at the poll questions and read the results, yeah, people are in favor of a special election. Okay? But are they in favor? Let's just get right to it. Are they in favor of raising taxes on their sales tax, their income tax, and their car tax? And the answer is a resounding no.
All right, so attention headline writer at the Daily News. Also, headline writers at the Los Angeles Times and George Skelton. Here's the part that either was overlooked or was not discussed thoroughly enough, certainly not highlighted at the top the way it should have been. These are three simple questions here. Three simple questions. New revenue sources have been proposed to address the state budget deficit. For each of the following, please indicate whether you favor or oppose the proposal. Number one, raising state personal income taxes. Oppose 60%, favor 38%.
And that's all adults. That's both parties.
Democrats,
60% overall say no to the income tax.
And listen to this. 57% of Democrats say no to the income tax increase. 81% of Republicans, 67% of independents.
When it comes down to likely voters, a subcategory, that's all likely voters, 70% say no.
Likely voters. Per income tax increase loses 70 to 27. Digest that. 70 to 27. Now let's look at the second question. Do you favor or oppose raising the state sales tax on all purchases? Well, among all adults, voters and non-voters, they oppose it 69 to 29.
Because they know that they're going to get hit when it comes to sales taxes. Some of them, when they heard the income tax question, said, well, maybe they'll just raise it on the wealthier. It'll hit them harder. But everybody pays sales tax. That's why they more resoundingly opposed raising the sales tax, even the income tax. But both are whopping numbers. 69% do not want to see the state sales tax go up.
Among likely voters, the opposition is 64 to 34. Among Democrats, opposition is 57 to 41. See, this is what I hate about the way things are covered. Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative. No. Look at the polling. Taxpayers don't want to be taxed anymore by large majorities. Republicans against it 76-23. Independents against it 68-29. Choke on that. Third question here. Do you favor or oppose the proposal to increase the vehicle license fee, which is the car tax?
And that time, there you go, the word fee's in there.
All adults, voters and non-voters oppose it 66-33. How about that? A nice, clean 2-1 margin. Even Democrats oppose it 51-48. Republicans 82-17. Independents 61-37. Likely voters 62-36. On all three major categories where they want to increase taxes July 1st, you lose Democrats, Republicans, Independents, likely voters, and unlikely voters. You lose them all, and you lose them all, almost everyone, by large margins. So there you go.
Well, the general nature of this poll is that people are giving Jerry Brown a chance. They like the idea he's working on the budget. This is all the headlines, right? And they like the idea that there shouldn't be any more cuts to kindergarten through 12. When you ask them, do they want to raise their taxes, and specifically the three taxes we're talking about that we got hit with 2 years ago, it's resounding. It's no. Now, when we come back, we'll dig further into this. And John mentioned him, L.A. Times writer George Skelton has quite a unique angle on this. He does address the fact that the voters are resistant to raising these taxes, but wait till you hear his spin.
John and Ken Show, John Cobalt and Ken Shampoo. So
it's a day for much rage and even a bit of laughter on the side. Besides this poll, which we're going to finish talking about Jerry Brown's budget and this idea of keeping these taxes going for another 5 years, there's another story out, which we're going to talk about at 4 o'clock, about the prison system and the health care spending that is I almost had a stroke this morning when I read it. I mean, here's your headline. $82 million spent down the drain on stuff that we're not even going to do. $82 million. And you've heard us talk about how much we spend per prisoner. You can throw some of those numbers out. They've been revised upward. We'll talk about that.
It's unbelievable how it is the most badly run department maybe in America, the California prison system. And it is sucking up a tremendous amount of money.
Which, by the way, this poll says that people favor from all parties. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, they want cuts in the corrections budget, and it doesn't bother them at all. Overwhelmingly, by the way. They just have gotten that message.
Yeah, I mean, if we're spending triple what Texas is, more than triple what Texas is, yeah, everybody should agree that it's too much, and they're not getting sued. This is what really makes me crazy. Did you see we'll talk more about it next hour. I want to go back to this poll here, because if you get me started on the prisons, it'll go on all day.
All right, Public Policy put out a poll, and again, the hoot, but it's also, it really enrages us, is that a lot of the pundits and the media in interpreting this poll seem to be leading people to believe that this poll says that Californians are willing to go along with Jerry Brown's budget plan, which includes extending those taxes for another 5 years. That's not the truth.
And, yeah, there's one question they ask where 54% of the voters say they favored Brown's idea and 41% opposed.
Yeah, that's a good headline.
That's a good headline, except when...
That's like saying, well, the governor's working on a budget. Do you favor it? Yes, I favor working on a budget. You can put me down for yes.
But, see, the truth is that 60% of adults are against raising the income tax. 69% are against raising the sales tax, and 66% are against raising the car tax. And you may think, well, this doesn't quite add up. If people are in favor of raising taxes some and cutting some to balance the budget, if we have a majority there, there's another tax. We didn't read to you. There's another tax. How about raising state taxes paid by California corporations?
Aha.
Whoa, look at that. 60% favor the corporate business tax being increased. Well, that's not on the ballot.
It's not.
But that's why when you ask people, okay, so you think some taxes ought to be increased and we'll do some cuts and that'll balance the budget, they go, well, yeah, that sounds very good. Yeah, that sounds fair. Because they think, let's sock it to the businesses. No, that's not what they're doing. You are going to get socked, okay? When the referendum goes on the ballot, it's about increasing your income tax, increasing your sales tax, increasing your car tax. There's not going to be anything there about business taxes. Don't worry, because the business people, they have their checks out, and they've already bribed everyone from San Diego to Sacramento.
Didn't we learn that lesson 2 years ago with Tax Revolt 2009? As they were pushing to raise your car tax, your income tax, and your sales tax, certain businesses were donating heavily to Proposition 1A to keep those taxes going for another 2 years. Because why? They were talking about taxes on them, taxes on concerts and sporting event tickets. Remember all that?
Here's where
the idea never got anywhere, but it wasn't hurt by the fact that businesses, like the people that run the Lakers and the Clippers and the Staples Center, were giving heavily to Prop 1A to make sure you were paying the taxes and not them.
See, the superficial ninnies that work at the Los Angeles Times, they never delve deeper to the second and third level. People want funding for services, yeah, but they want other people to pay for it. Wealthy people? Because smokers, drinkers, and corporations.
Because they know that they pay enough already.
Exactly.
People are aware of how much the sales tax is in their county. People are aware when they file their income taxes, basically what the rates and the total tax bite is, or they see their paycheck every week or every month, and they realize just how much is being withdrawn. They know that.
And if the wealthy and the corporations and the smokers and the drinkers and Charlie Sheen are not willing to pay increased taxes.
Yeah, the Charlie Sheen tax. $2 million an episode? We can grab half of that every time he does a show.
Well, I think we do, don't we? Well, the federal government and the state government does.
Well, I don't know. Knowing celebrities, they probably have ways around big tax bills.
But there would be an extra tax on all the cocaine he uses.
Now, listen to this. We mentioned that one of our favorites, the LA Times columnist, the man that writes the Capital Journal and has for probably 122 years, George Skelton. He wrote about this poll. In fact, John and I, this is the first place we got news of this poll this morning. I flipped to page 2 of the Times, and I saw this George Skelton column. And, you know, he starts out really going down the wrong path. Very rosy, very optimistic. It's looking good for Jerry Brown. It seems that people are cautiously optimistic about him and supportive of his plan to plug the flow of red ink. Now, eventually, he gets to what we've been talking about. Voters still are in no mood to raise taxes. And he puts the word raise in parentheses, which got my attention. Maybe on someone else, but not of themselves. That's why it's crucial for Jerry Brown to have this election in June, because on July 1st, the current temporary tax hikes will expire. So if the election were held in November, he'd be proposing a tax increase by any definition. He writes, Skelton, clearly the key words here in characterizing this tax vote, extension and temporary. So the spin by George Skelton, John, is that poll question, which asked about increasing taxes on income and on sales tax and on the car tax, is not what we're talking about. The June vote will just be on extending, and that will be okay with people.
I don't think so. I don't think so either, because as of now,
not if we get the word out properly.
As of July 1st, 2011, the income tax and the sales tax and the car tax rates are going to be lower than they are now. So if we vote to raise the tax rate after July 1st, that's exactly what we've done. We've raised taxes.
Oh, but if we vote in June, it'll just be to keep taxes as they are.
That's why he wanted this done in June.
Oh, yeah, no.
Because he wants to be flooding the airwaves with extension of temporary tax increases. Well, wait a second. We already had the temporary tax increase, and the public was against it. And when they were asked to extend it in May of 2009, they turned it down 2-1.
Which is so now we hope they do again.
Well, but you can't keep calling them temporary. This is the third time you're trying to extend the taxes. The third time. You can't go, oh, it's temporary. It was temporary in February of 2009. It was temporary in May of 2009. Now, in June of 2011, it's going to be temporary again? Stop it. But that's 3 temporaries. 3 temporaries equals a permanent.
But I agree, but it's smart in that most people don't pay that close attention, which, by the way, we'll talk about when we come back from the break with another finding in this poll.
Oh, my God. The public is colossally
ignorant.
Unbelievably ignorant. I mean, mind-bogglingly ignorant.
But you know what? It's the budget. Most people don't care about finances and don't pay attention.
Well, that's why we're bankrupt. That's why we're bankrupt, though. Oh, these numbers are unbelievable.
But based on that, I'm just going to say this quickly. Jerry Brown knows that come July 1st, when you start to go shopping and you notice say in L.A. County, that you're not paying 9 3/4 sales tax anymore, you're paying 8 3/4, he says that could stick in your head. So if he would put this on the ballot and say November, you're going to have 3 months where you've been paying that scaled-back sales tax, and you're going to see increase, and you're going to vote no. He just believes that, well, you're paying 9 3/4 now in L.A. County, and if in June, you know what's going to be key? How they word the questions.
What the ballot summary is going to be like.
1A.
That's what the ballot summary is going to be about, too.
All right, we'll
talk more.
We'll talk about how people really don't know
Right.
anything about how this state collects and spends money.
You people are in an exclusive club because you listen to this program. You know stuff. Most everybody else, they don't know stuff. We'll tell you what they don't know when we come back. John and Ken, KFI AM640, more stimulating talk radio.
Coming up on the Bill Handel Show, where were you when 7 astronauts touched the face of God? Bill's going to talk about the Challenger explosion 25 years ago tomorrow at 7:20.
Bill Handel, tomorrow morning at 5.
KFI AM640, more stimulating talk radio.
John and Ken Show. John Cobelt and Ken Champeau. So, this new Public Policy Institute poll, the truth is, more than 60% of the public is against raising the income tax on July 1st, raising the sales tax, or raising the car tax. That's the truth. And large majorities of Republicans, Democrats, and independents, all three main broad political categories, they're against it, every single tax. As long as you're talking about personal taxes, right? Income, sales, car tax, Democrats, Republicans, independents, across the board against it by large majorities. The only thing people are for is a corporate tax. Screw the businesses. And then they wonder why there's 22% unemployment, right? It's what I love. People are stupid. They're ignorant, uninformed.
Well, that's clear from another part of the poll, which says the majority of adults say they have some knowledge, 39%, or a lot of knowledge, 15%. About how state and local governments spend and raise money.
That's what they say.
That's
more
what
than
they
half
say.
the people.
So that's 54% together.
Yeah, more than half the people think they have a pretty good idea what's going on when it comes to spending.
Well, given a list of the top 4 state spending categories, and here they are: K through 12 public education, health and human services, higher education, and prisons and corrections. What percentage could correctly name the top spending category? 16%, as it turned out, and 22% of likely voters. And the answer is K through 12, which, if you listen to the show, you know that gobbles up about 40% or a little bit more of the budget.
Can you believe this? Only 16%. This is why everybody freaks out about cuts in education. You know, more people think that we spend more on prisons than we do on schools. It's not even close.
By more than 2 to 1, people pick the prisons. Which is actually the 4th largest of those 4.
It's the least of the 4 categories. It's still a lot of money. But what we spend on K through 12 public education is huge. 45% of adults think we spend the most money on prisons. 45%, only 16%. 1 out of 6 people, 1 out of 6 adults realize that the biggest chunk of money goes to the schools. Unbelievable. Now,
how many prisoners do they think we have? I mean, when you compare the number of prisoners to the number of students, statewide K through 12, it's not even close. There's only 100 and some odd thousand prisoners. We got 38 million people in the state of California. What do they think? We have like 10 million people in prison?
We have millions.
They really have no idea.
No, they don't. We have millions of kids in school. And in fact, I think we probably have 4 times as many kids in the Los Angeles Unified School District as we have statewide prisoners. People don't know anything.
That being said, we do spend too much per prisoner, and we'll talk about that next hour, particularly when it comes to the whole battle over health care for prisoners. You're not going to believe the update we're going to give you after 4 o'clock. So then they ask people, all right, what about the revenue side, as we call it in the John and Ken Show, the tax side? What is the main sources of taxes that the state grabs from the taxpayers? Only 29% knew that it was the personal income tax as the top source.
And that makes sense because we have the highest income tax rates in the country at the lowest levels.
And you have a small percentage of taxpayers paying a big chunk of that.
So,
which is why California gets into this problem when we go through a cycle like the dot-com boom and the real estate boom. Those top taxpayers, all their capital gains, they send a lot of money to Sacramento. And they go spend it, expand government, and then a couple of years later, everything goes bust. They're like, huh? We didn't know. Where's that money?
Now, get this. What percentage of adults knew the top spending category and the top revenue category?
Here's the real ignorant test.
How much percentage of people in the state knew that we spend the biggest share of money on education,
K through 12,
and the largest revenue source is income tax? 6% of the public. 6!
And only 9% of the likely voters, which is so. We've decided here that that's the 9% that should get to vote.
Yeah,
that's really my decision. Especially on something like the June vote about the budget and the taxes. It should only be 9% of voters are allowed. People that actually know where the money comes from and how it's spent.
You have 91% of likely voters who cannot name both the top spending, the top spending area in government and the top revenue source in government. 91% of likely voters, let's clarify. These are people who regularly show up to vote. And 9 out of 10 have no idea where we spend the money and no idea where the money comes from. At least not the top sources. Holy. And this is why we are where we are. Nobody knows anything.
No, which is why I found it pretty funny. Some of the other questions that they asked in this poll included, what do you feel, or how do you feel about the concept of shifting tax dollars and fees to local governments to take on the responsibility of running certain programs? Strong majorities, 73% of likely voters favor. Oh, get out of here. If only 9% of the voters actually know where the state gets its money and how it really spends it, how do they really know what the hell you're talking about when you're talking about shifting responsibility? That can't be believed or trusted.
If you try to manage California by going by this polling, you end up bankrupt. Well, we're bankrupt. People don't know crap. It's like going to a bunch of second graders and asking them, how do you build a space shuttle? You guys want to take a crack at it?
Which is why we're in the bind we're in, because we trust the a-holes in Sacramento to do this, and they're all corrupt. They're all liars, thieves, and whores.
Well,
that's why we're stuck.
They're not going to get caught. Every single incumbent in Sacramento got reelected in the legislature. Every single incumbent, Democrat and Republican. And then you have these unbelievable negative ratings, dissatisfaction with the legislature, unhappy with well, it's you. Well, maybe it's not you, but 91% of likely voters don't know where the biggest spending is and don't know where the biggest revenue source is. And then you're upset with the legislators, but you keep voting in the same bastards over and over again.
All right,
and I got to pay more tax money because of all this? No.
When we come back, more news that'll just make you angry. You know, we've talked a lot, and this poll covered it too, about the spending on the Department of Corrections and the prisoners. And almost 5 years ago, the federal government took away responsibility for the health care spending on the prisoners. Wait till you hear what a fiasco that's become.
On the John and Ken Show, Terry Railmer has the news now. KFI AM640, more stimulating talk radio.
Thursday, January 27th.
They're background noise. We're foreground rage. Southern California's KFI.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
News on the hour, on the half, and when it breaks.
Police say the unsolved killings of 2 more women in South L.A. may be connected to the so-called Grim Sleeper serial murders.
These 2 killings happened in the late 1980s and early 90s, close to the 14-year period where before now, the LAPD said no murders could be linked to the Grim Sleeper series. Lead Detective Dennis Kilcoyne says there's no DNA or forensic link yet.
We just see similarities, and we're working hard on those particular 2 right now.
The 2 cases don't seem related to the LAPD's decision to release photos of more than 150 women found during a search of Lonnie Franklin Jr.'s home. Franklin has been charged with 10 of the sleeper murders. He's pleaded not guilty. At LAPD headquarters, Eric Leonard, KFI News.
An amateur photog sentenced to death in California for murdering 4 women in L.A. County and a 12-year-old girl in Orange County has now been indicted for 2 murders in New York in the 70s. District Attorney in Manhattan says he wants Rodney Alcala sent back to New York to face those charges. The deaths of flight attendant Cornelia Crilly and heiress Ellen Hover in 1971 and 77. Even though Alcala is on death row in San Quentin, the Manhattan District Attorney, Cyrus Vance Jr., says you don't get away with murder. Sheriff's investigators in northern L.A. County are looking for a man, or more than one man, who came up to two kids and tried to get them into a car.